Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to the Catholic Mama, where you'll learn how to deepen and defend your faith, find comfort as we share the vocation of parenthood, and learn how to raise your children confidently Catholic. I'm your host, Christine Mooney-Flynn. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to The Catholic Mama. I'm your host, Christine Mooney-Flynn, and thank you for joining me on today's episode, where I am joined by writer Jennifer Hartline, who is, as I said, a Catholic writer. As she is a wife and mother of 4 children, and she has contributed to various Catholic and Christian websites across the internet. And today I'm having her on because I would like to discuss some rather controversial topic in America today and around the world, which is transgender issues. So Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah, so I that was a very brief intro, and I know that your article that we're going to discuss today was published on the stream. But why don't you tell us a little bit about more about yourself and where you have where your writing can be found?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm a mom of 4. My husband has been active duty military until very recently, so I've been an Army wife and traveling all over the place. I started out writing for Catholic Online, and I've written for Catholic Stand a few years back, but now I am a columnist at the Stream, stream.org. As you mentioned, that's where the piece we're going to talk about was published. So I just spend my days with my kiddos and homeschooling and writing and trying to be a saint, right?
That's right.
Isn't that the only tragedy, not to be a saint?
I think so. We should all shoot for heaven. We should not be shooting for purgatory or elsewhere. I got to ask, because I have 3 kids and another on the way. What ages are you dealing with your kids right now?
My kiddos range in age from 6 to 18.
Oh, wow. And have you homeschooled, like the 18-year-old? Has this one been homeschooled the whole time?
Almost, not completely, but almost. She's done most of her schooling at home. She did. I have this one who is just finishing up this May her high school, and I've got another high schooler as well. They do their schooling online, Homeschool Connections, and various other Catholic online places. It's really great that we have that option. We have so many more options available for schooling now. Really great online options for high schoolers.
Yeah, I've my oldest is he'll be 6 in the fall, and I'm just now realizing that I have to figure out what we're going to do, and public school just really isn't an option. I physically cannot. I can't do it.
No, I can't do it either. No, not anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, it was bad enough, when I was going through, and it was getting progressively worse as the years went on. But now, man, I just can't do it. So I think because we just moved and I haven't found a parochial school that I really like yet, I think we're going to just homeschool in kindergarten, because it's kindergarten. I feel like I can do that. Nothing else. And then we can figure this out from there. But I have another, I'm 5 months pregnant, so we have another one coming in the fall. So I just have to.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm just a little nervous about trying to homeschool with a newborn and then, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old in the mix, but people do it. So I just have to find the right curriculum or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
You will.
Yes. I've been praying a lot about it. So if this is, I've said I'll homeschool, Lord, if that's what you want me to do. If not, can you please help me find where I'm supposed to send this kid? Because I don't know. But actually, so this topic that we're going to talk about in this article is dealing with school in one way. And I'll put the link to the article itself in the show notes so listeners can read it for themselves. But the article is called Girls versus Transgender. Girls Will Lose Every Time. have you written on this transgender issue before? Or was this kind of your first foray into this topic?
No, I have written many columns on this subject, sadly. It's the kind of thing, honestly, where I still find myself thinking, I can't believe we're actually talking about this. I can't believe we're actually having to deal with this. Who could have imagined 10, 15 years ago that today we would be dealing with a situation where you are called all manner of insulting names because you object to having a boy competing on the girls' team. I mean, who could have imagined that we would be in such a state of madness as we're in now? So it's this subject where I still find myself thinking, why haven't I woken up yet? Why isn't this still going on?
Yeah, and these cases, whether it's from school-age kids on up to professional sports, they just keep coming up.
They are, and I hate to say this, I hate to say it, folks, but if anybody out there is still thinking that there's a way to peacefully coexist with transgenderism, it's time for you to wake up and have the rude awakening and realize that girls, that women in particular, are going to be eaten by this greedy beast. It is a very greedy beast. There is no peaceful coexistence, because if a boy and a man can call himself a girl and is suddenly entitled to everything belonging exclusively to girls, to females, then women don't exist anymore. Girls and women effectively have been erased. They simply don't exist as a category anymore. And you can't have it both ways. There is either male and female, or there isn't.
I think it's interesting to watch because feminists have now been put in this awkward position of having to either say champion transgender causes and continue on and whatever their nuttiness, or actually finally say actually no, and they're just eating each other alive at this point, which is humorous to watch, but also, I mean, the fact that we're
horrifying. It's stupid liberal modern feminism wants to try, like I said, and have some sort of peaceful coexistence with this madness. And there isn't, because rationality and irrationality cannot peacefully coexist. And that is the bottom line here. Transgenderism is irrational. It is fundamentally irrational. There is no such thing. There is no such human person as a girl trapped in the wrong body or a boy trapped in the wrong body. This is irrationality. It's madness. I mean, if ever there was a children's story that really needs to make a comeback in our day, we need to be reading about the emperor's new clothes, okay? Because the emperor is naked, folks. He is naked as a daybird walking down the street. And if you're raving about his new clothes, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you've gone crazy.
So let's back up just a little bit and explain the particular incident that kicked off this article, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the reader or the listeners.
Well, it's a girls' high school track team. High-level competition for the school leading up to a state-level competition. And, of course, boys were allowed to compete on the team. And the first place kept the first and second and third place, girls on the team from reaching their goals. It's about boys basically stealing the girls' athletic achievements from them by being allowed to compete on the girls' teams. And biology dictates that the boys are always going to beat the girls. Sorry, but biology just dictates that. Boys and men are physically stronger in serious, important ways. And when it comes to a lot of these sports, the girls are not going to be able to beat the boys. This is why we have a girls' team and a boys' team in the first place.
Yeah, there was, God, I can't remember if it was recently or maybe this story just surfaced recently of a man who was competing in women's powerlifting, I think, and he broke like 9 records or something ridiculous. And he was so proud of himself. Like this was not something he was expected to do. He's a male powerlifter.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to be able to lift more weight than any female.
Right.
Or the MMA fighter who got her skull cracked by a man saying he was a woman and just beat the shit out of her. And it's dangerous physically.
Absurd.
Besides outside of sports, and I know we can touch on that too, of what that means if you allow men and boys who say that they're girls and women to suddenly go into locker rooms or bathrooms or whatever. It's dangerous emotionally and morally. I mean, it's just there's so much wrong with it, and it's insane. And like you said, like when are you going to wake up from this dream? Like how do people not see this?
Right. It is. I keep asking that every single day. How have we come to this place? How did this happen that people suddenly decided that boys and girls were not boys and girls anymore? How did we suddenly cave in to this ridiculous notion that a boy can become a girl? Why did we become so weak, so morally and intellectually weak, that we just collapsed under the weight of this crazy demand from a very small segment of our population that we must say a boy can become a girl and a man can become a woman, and gender is completely a construct, and we are suddenly malleable. We're like Mr. Potato Head dolls now. and I don't understand. How did we become so intimidated by this, so weak by this, that we literally have just collapsed under this demand that we accept this madness as the new normal for every human person?
When you say it's a small population, it really is. It's less than 1%, less than half. It's like 1.6% of adults in the United States who identify as
although, it's a small population, but although parents need to wake up to another disturbing fact, and that is that this sudden onset gender dysphoria thing is happening. It is a fad now among adolescent girls, because the rates suddenly of adolescent girls, young girls who are suddenly deciding that they are really boys and that they want to transition is skyrocketing. It's becoming a fad. It's a contagion that is catching on and spreading among our young people. And parents need to be aware that this madness is claiming our kids.
And because it's such a loud minority, even if I'm not saying even just the people who are identified as transgender, but just this loud, crazy leftist minority who are shouting about how important all this stuff is. It's making it seem very normal for everybody else as well. So the parents, even a friend of mine had her first kid a couple years ago, and in passing, she was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know. Is she going to stay a girl? Like, I guess I'll just do whatever she wants." I was like, "No, you don't have to do that. You're the parent. You could set them straight." I mean, if suddenly my kid watches cartoons where all the humans for some reason only have 4 fingers, because I just noticed that in Paw Patrol, the humans only have 4 fingers. But then suddenly my son says, "Hey, I want to only have 4 fingers like them." I wouldn't let him cut off his finger.
Right.
You would help them to see that that's not normal behavior. You are me just as God made you and nature made you. This is a totally good, rational thing to be just who you are.
Right. Yeah. So again, and there's an intimidation factor here going on, because people have to be willing to resist this. And that means they're going to be called bigot. They're going to be called intolerant. They're going to be called insensitive. They're going to be called hateful. They're going to be called all of these insulting, nasty names. And nobody wants to be called names. Nobody wants to be seen as hateful. Nobody wants to be accused of being an intolerant bigot. And so people are afraid. People have become intimidated by this and afraid to speak up. And the result is now, can we please wake up and be alarmed, people, by the fact that even the medical profession now is willing to butcher and mutilate a child's perfectly healthy body in the name of this delusion, this madness that a boy suddenly wants to be a girl or a girl suddenly wants to be a boy. And now suddenly, even the medical profession is permanently mutilating a healthy child's body in the service of this delusion. I mean, I'm sorry, if that right there doesn't cause parents to completely come unglued, I don't know what's going to do it. I really don't know what's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of a doctor is to heal, not to, you said, mutilate. And it really is, especially if for boys feeling like they're girls and they go through this surgery. I mean, it is a gaping wound for the rest of their lives.
It is.
There are long-term, and unfortunately, long-term studies haven't been completed yet. Right. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. The body is trying to heal. It can't heal. They have to pull, from bits from the bowels. I mean, it really is a whole process as well.
It is one thing, I suppose, to do this to a grown adult whose body is finished developing and this person is an adult and is legally allowed to make these decisions. I suppose that's one thing in one category. But I'm sorry, it is completely unethical to take a growing child, a young child whose body and brain is still growing, still developing, and to mutilate that child's body in an irreparable manner. There is no going back. There's no undoing what they do. They chemically mutilate and butcher these children with hormones that will leave them infertile for the rest of their lives, leave them prone to cancer and all sorts of other horrible side effects. And then they want to follow that up with actual surgical mutilation, cutting off healthy body parts and sexual organs. And this is undoable. There's no going back and saying, "Whoops, this was a mistake. Let's just put you back the way you were." That can't happen.
Yeah, these are permanent.
To do this to our still growing children, I don't know how else to describe this except it's total madness.
Yeah, and even if you could say, people are becoming more or less transphobic. Maybe it's becoming more aware. Restaurants or other businesses are supporting all of this. It doesn't bear out in the happiness level of any of these people who go through this process. The suicide rates are high. The abuse rates are high. I mean, it's not letting a person with a mental disorder actually fulfill that with disordered behavior doesn't make them happier. It's not bearing. There's no fruit that's being born here that it's actually showing that this is a good thing.
Yeah,
for that person, even we can't even just giving them what that person may want isn't making them happy either.
Of course not, and it's an apt comparison that is often made between the transgender dysphoria, the gender dysphoria, the gender identity disorder, and something like anorexia. I mean, we don't look at the 15-year-old girl who believes herself to be obese and 200 pounds and confirm her in that delusion. She's really not. She's not obese. And we don't encourage her to starve herself in order to achieve the illusion of herself that she wants, that her sick mind is creating for her. We don't encourage her in that because that's destructive to her body. It's destructive to her health, to her mind. And we recognize that the way she sees herself is not accurate. It's not real. So we encourage her toward reality. But suddenly when it comes to this gender identity disorder and gender dysphoria, we're not encouraging our children toward reality. We are pushing them further into the delusion. We're affirming them in the false idea that they have in their mind about who they are, instead of saying, your physical body tells you who you are. Our physical bodies tell us who we are. That's a fact everybody needs to get comfortable with and be able to say. Your physical body tells you who you are.
Right. And any feelings that you may have do not trump your actual facts.
Right. Otherwise, you're just getting into Gnosticism, where you think you can separate mind and body, and the body's meaningless, and it's all in your head.
Yeah, I just had someone on the podcast last week who had said that he was quoting one of the popes, and neither of us could remember who it was exactly, but saying that modernism is the culmination of every heresy. I think that kind of this goes right in there, like when you said the Gnosticism that we can separate.
It is. It's the new Gnosticism.
Yeah.
It's
very. When I was going through college 15 years ago, I got my degree in anthropology, so lots of very liberal thinking, and for a very long time, I was a very liberal thinker myself, and even 15 years ago, they were talking a lot about different genders, and in cultures in Africa, you might have 5 genders, not just 2 or whatever it is, whatever they were saying. But it's interesting that if you think that this is why it's so important for what kids are learning, say, in schools, whether that's in public schools or on to secondary education, whatever's being taught there eventually, and this is only, I was learning about different genders besides the 2 and 15 years ago, is now mainstream. It's very important to pay attention to what's being taught in the schools along the way, because it does show up in mainstream culture, and it doesn't take that long.
Oh, yeah.
It leaves its academic bubble pretty fast.
Oh, yeah. And it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening to me what's now being taught in the public. I say taught, how the kids are being indoctrinated now in the public school system into this nonsense of believing that they can choose what they want to be. They can choose their own gender. They need not pay any attention to the body they were born in. And just because someone, quote, assigned them the sex of female doesn't mean they have to be a girl. It's insane. And they're doing this now to our littlest ones from kindergarten on up. Yep. And the only reason that they will succeed, the school systems will succeed in indoctrinating the kids this way, is because parents will allow it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But also, they don't want to seem like bullies. And this kind of comes up, and you mentioned in this article about compassion. And the first thing that struck me is that there is a big difference between tolerance and compassion, or tolerance and charity. And I think people are getting these confused.
Right. And again, no one wants to be labeled an intolerant or hateful bigot, and no one wants to appear as though they don't have compassion for someone who is suffering. Of course, we have compassion for someone who is suffering. But again, let's go back to our other example. The young girl suffering from anorexia. What's the most compassionate way to respond to her? What's the truly charitable way in which to respond to her? Is it to encourage her to do her body harm and to persist in the false idea that her mind has of who she is? Is that compassion? I don't think so. I think compassion is to lead each other, lead each person, a person who is suffering, toward what is objectively true, to encourage them to embrace what is objectively true, to love the physical body that God gave us and the sex we are. And there really is male and female. Yes, there's the extremely rare aberration where genitals don't develop properly in the womb, or you might have someone who is genuinely intersex, but those cases are extremely rare, and they do not make up the bulk of the numbers that we're seeing now with this transgender ideology madness.
It seems like it's very difficult to do that, because you're forced to take a stand, and it's not just about being nice and let others live the way they want to.
Live and let live, right?
Yeah. It can be a very uncomfortable thing. So, what do you see? What can parents or anybody do in this crazy time we live? Do you have any advice?
There's only one thing we can do, and it's very difficult, and it's going to be very costly, but there's only one thing we can do, and that is affirm the truth. Affirm the truth of the human person, made in the image and likeness of God, male and female. Affirm the truth that male and female were made for each other, that our differences are complementary and beautiful, and those differences need to be recognized and respected. And we need to affirm the truth that men are male and women are female, and one cannot become the other. That is madness. And we have to be willing to say, sorry, but that is madness. The truth is, we are created male and female. Men are male, women are female.
That is bold, radical stuff you're saying.
Isn't it crazy that sounds bold and radical?
It absolutely does sound crazy. that does.
It's so simple. It's so obvious. And yet you're right. Now it's sounding bold and radical. How did we get here? It's astonishing.
No, we could probably trace it all the way back to the Enlightenment, but I don't know if we have time for that right now. The one thing I did want to touch on too, I don't know if you've been following the vote. I know the House just voted and passed the Equality Act.
Yes.
I don't think it'll go much farther than that, but I don't know if we could talk about that for a second about what that is. I can as well if.
It is the most dangerous piece of legislation, I think, in American history. And if that sounds hyperbolic, I'm sorry, but I think it's a true statement. It is simply the most dangerous piece of legislation ever to be concocted and shoved on the American people. And hopefully you are right that it won't make it through the Senate, or that, God forbid, even if it did, President Trump would veto it. I'm sure that's true for now. But that doesn't mean that it's just going to simply go down a black hole and disappear.
Yep.
Time will come when, if there's a Democrat majority in both houses and a Democrat president, that act will become law, and it will spell, I hate to be Miss Doom and Gloom here, but it will be the end of religious freedom. It will be the end of male and female. It will be the end of girls' specific anything in the country. It will be the end of the ladies' room. It will be the end of the ladies' dressing room. It will be the end of female-only spaces everywhere in America. And the ripple effects of this legislation will just go on forever.
Yeah, I mean, if you think, say in the UK already, you can be charged with a hate crime for just not identifying somebody by the pronoun that they prefer.
We're not using the right pronoun.
Yep. And so with this Equality Act, I mean, it opens up Americans being penalized for that same reason, businesses being penalized for not having policies in place or bathrooms or what have you that go along with all this stuff. The sports, again, for boys and girls just blends and becomes completely unfair.
And people need to realize that this act, if people have any affection at all for their right of free speech, if it really means anything to them at all, then they need to realize the threat of this act, because there will no longer be any such thing as free speech. Instead, there will be compelled speech. You and I, by force of law, we, under threat of penalty from the law, would be compelled to call a man she, to call him a woman, to refer to this boy as a girl. It would be compelled under threat of penalty by the law that we speak in this way. And so, I've made up my own mind, but everyone will have to make up their mind for himself. I will not be compelled to speak falsehood. I don't care what the law says. I will never be compelled to speak falsehood. And I will never call a man a woman. I will never refer to him as a woman or to a girl as a boy. I just won't do it. But that day will come if the Equality Act is passed. So if people value their right of free speech, now is the time to start using it and speak up in objection to this law.
Yeah, absolutely. So it has gone through the House. You can write your senator. You can look that up and write your senator. But in the meantime, just keep talking against all of this. And not to say that there is a matter. The matter is that this is incorrect. This is a disorder of the mind. This is not real. They are male or female. The manner in which we all engage in all this stuff can be compassionate and loving and charitable. It doesn't have to be mean and angry all the time. But we do have to take a stand.
I agree.
As uncomfortable as that may be.
We must.
For our own sake and for the sake of our kids.
If we don't do it now, the opportunity will be gone. The time really is right now to find the courage to resist this madness. And it is, It is madness. Okay. It is madness. Men do not have menstrual periods. They don't get pregnant. They can't have a baby. They don't breastfeed. This, men are not mothers. Okay. They're not women. This, it's all just madness. And we have to find the courage to say that. No, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to agree with you that a man can become a woman. Because it's not true.
Yeah. And wherever this Equality Act winds up, whether it gets passed now or 10 years from now or whatever,
Right.
we do have to remember, and the same goes for the abortion debate now, just legality does not confer morality.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was once legal to own slaves, but we all know that's immoral as well. So,
right. And we all know everything Hitler did was legal, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's how do you see this ending? I mean, once we get to the point where boys can compete in girls' track and they can do powerlifting, women's powerlifting meets, and they can crack the skull of a female MMA fighter, can we go back to just male and female sports, or no? What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's a very good question. And that's the precipice that we're on right now. Can we go back to sanity? Because our only option is to continue on in insanity or to return to sanity. Because like I said, I don't believe there's any such thing as a peaceful coexistence between rationality and irrationality. A society has to choose. Are we going to continue on with this insanity and all of the terrible side effects that it brings for everyone, or are we going to return to sanity? A return to sanity would be a monumental effort, and it would take a whole lot of courage, and it would basically have to have enough people saying, sorry, but we're going to go back to the days when it was male and female and men and women, and the one cannot become the other, and we're going to separate the sexes based on sex, male and female. If you are male, you can't participate in the female things. If you're female, you don't get to do the boys stuff. I mean, can we return to that? I certainly hope so, because if we don't, it's the obliteration of girls and women.
Oh, not to be doom and gloom, right?
Not to be doom and gloom. I know. That was pretty doom and gloomish, wasn't it?
No, but it absolutely is true. And it isn't, if you just go through thinking...
the truth is the antidote to this stuff, though. The truth is the antidote. The truth is the light. It's getting very dark out there. And the light, truth is light, and it is the antidote to this. And people, we just have to return to what is true.
Mm-hmm. And the medicine that we have to take may not be something we like to take. May not taste good going down, but it's the only thing that's going to fix us. So maybe we should have a slogan: Make America Sane Again.
Make America sane again. I like that. Exactly.
We need all the help we can get. We'll just keep praying and talking. And like I said, exercise. I like that. Exercising our free speech while we can to combat this. I would also say, I was thinking, because you keep talking about male and female and our bodies being created. If anybody needs a little confidence boost, that there are just two genders and God made us this way, bone up, if you haven't, brush up on St. Pope John Paul II's Theology of the Body. That at least a very clear-cut explanation that there are only two genders and God made it that way.
Yes, but for such beautiful reasons, with so much love and with so much purpose and with so much intentionality. It's not accidental that God made us male and female. He did it out of love. And it's such a beautiful thing. We've got to return to the beauty of male and female as complementary to one another.
It is still mind-boggling that feminism just wound up destroying the thing that they were trying to promote in the first place, which is just basically the strength of the feminine genius. And men are very, and men of course have been victims and pushed aside and run over with all of this as well. Yes,
they have. We've disparaged manhood for decades now, disparaged men in general. turn them into cartoons that get laughed on television all the time. So you've got decades of men in society now who aren't completely sure what it means to be a man. How are they supposed to act? What are they supposed to do? What does it mean to be a man? And then you've got decades of women who have grown up looking at men with scorn and disdain and as nothing but competition holding them back and that sort of thing. There's no mutual affection or respect and cooperation and admiration between the sexes. It has taken a serious hit, and we need to restore that mutual admiration, that mutual respect, affection, appreciation for each other, because men and women need each other.
Yes, absolutely. We complement one another. So maybe to bring this back to where we started, men and women just need to try to be saints. Just to keep living. The Catholic Church is probably the answer to all this, I would say. And,
no doubt.
It's the only thing.
No doubt it is.
Yeah. So we just have to keep trying to be saints. And the way we do that is by living out exactly as God intended and He made us, which includes our genders.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, so much. If do you have any parting words before we have to say our goodbyes?
I would only, I'll remind myself along with everyone else, what we've talked about is pretty depressing. It's so overwhelming sometimes. So I'll remind myself as well as everyone else that the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on. I know this is a tough topic to discuss, but one that is so necessary. And again, saying the truth is difficult in a world that tells you that you can have your own truth, my truth, your truth, his truth, whatever, her truth. But there's only one. It's objective, so it can be difficult. So to listeners, I would say keep try to create or strengthen the intelligent, rational Christian communities that you might be part of now, and that'll help bolster people around you who may be on the fence or whatever happens in the future. And we'll see how religious freedom in this country pans out. Because
yes, we've got to have courage. Have courage, and don't be afraid to say what is true, because the truth is not opposed to compassion and love. It's not.
No, just like faith and reason are not opposed, compassion and truth aren't either.
That's right.
Well, thank you again, Jennifer, and everyone listening. I will put the show notes. I'll put links to this article that we discussed of Jennifer's, as well as some other places that you can find her writing as well and keep up with her. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time, everyone. Don't forget to head over to thecatholicmama.com to get your free copy of How to Talk to Your Kids About God. This handy little ebook will teach you how to broach the topic of God with your children, or how to respond to your kids when they want to talk about God, as well as give you answers to 7 of the trickiest questions about the faith that Christian parents face. You'll love the easy-to-understand grown-up answers, the pared-down but not talked-down answers you can share with your kids, plus recommended resources if you'd like to deepen your understanding of the topic. Get yours free at thecatholicmama.com.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.